I think one of the challenges that the fitness industry experiences is that there's so much stuff to cut through to find what works for you. And there's a lot of snake oil salesmen that you don't want to spend time with. So like using technology for objective data that says, here's exactly where you are now. It's not that you can't improve. It's not that you're even bad now, but you're benchmarking and making data-driven specific decisions. And we're supporting things like supplementation and nutrition and other daily habits that go along with it, that at the end of the day will keep you out of the hospital.
Try to fix the current system or reimagine something new. Will healthcare ever serve consumers just like me and you? The power's in our hands, but every side's gotta come together. We want the newer generations to get something better. Until we flip the script and talk about what gets prevented. Until we see the changes permanent as if we meant it. Until healthcare is finally consumer-centered. We've got a lot to rap about.
Welcome back to the leading podcast about consumer-centered health. This is more than a show. This is a mission, y'all. As healthcare leaders, we're here to share with you the latest consumer-centered ways that healthcare is being designed, marketed, and delivered. And as consumers yourselves, we want you to understand how these options work and why they might be right for you and your loved ones. Here's what's going down today. First up, we have the Flava of the week about Google Health's Checkup event. What did their chief medical officer announce during their live stream? And how might it contribute to the democratization of personal health insights? I'll talk about that. Then Andy Grove, founder of Pose Fitness, talks about the need to cut through the hype in the fitness industry, where clinicians turn for fitness data, and the impact of exiting the comfort phase of humanity. I'm Jared Johnson. Let's get it.
Flava of the week.
3 announcements from Google's Checkup event opened up the door to yet more options for consumers to get personal health insights. Google's Chief Health Officer, Dr. Michael Howell, and other senior leaders from their health team hosted the event on March 18th, which focused on how AI is enabling new options for consumer engagement. I focused on 3 announcements. First, briefly, health-related videos on YouTube have surpassed 1 trillion views globally, and new AI tools will help turn watching into an interactive learning experience. Second, Google announced that they're exploring initiatives to support clinician education, care delivery, and health research in rural areas through partnerships with the Alice L. Walton School of Medicine and Heartland Whole Health Institute. They stated that they hope this work will pioneer a model for rural health transformation that can serve as a blueprint for improving health outcomes nationally and globally. And third, Fitbit's personal health coach is adding medical records, advanced sleep science, and metabolic research to give you more tools on the path to live a longer, healthier life. Starting in April, you'll be able to connect a continuous glucose monitor through Health Connect, and you can then ask the coach how a specific workout or meal affects your glucose levels to better understand your metabolic health. Also, you'll soon be able to securely link your medical records, including lab results and medications, directly to the Fitbit app. This allows the coach to provide personalized wellness guidance for complex questions like how to improve your cholesterol based on your actual clinical data. Your information remains securely stored, is never used for ads, and stays under your total control, according to Google. What's the consumer lens? It's becoming clearer by the day that the 2026 arms race is democratizing personal health data. ChatGPT and Claude were just the beginning, followed very quickly by Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and whoever's next. It's coming in the form of AI tools that may or may not keep your doctor in the loop. And that might be where traditional medicine will struggle the most. While these announcements dominate the news cycle because they involve big tech, they're proxies for the culture war lying in wait underneath between health care and prevention. It's the decades-old conundrum where clinicians want to help and heal patients, but work in a system that disincentivizes or even penalizes them for keeping them healthy in the first place. Don't believe me? I have almost 500 episodes I can refer you back to. But seriously, we all know that that's simplifying a process that actually can work in both directions. We can grow the influence, quality, and profitability of medical care while also reducing the incidence and cost of illness in America. We can do both, right? That's at least what I'm choosing to believe. And maybe we can keep debating that fact, but one thing's for sure. When big tech gets involved, they'll continue attempting to leapfrog one another, and that competitiveness usually results in rapid product improvements that benefit consumers at the end of the day. So whoever's next on stage to announce their foray into personal health, I say bring it on. Let's acknowledge the newest options that consumers have to access personal health insights and how those options now empower patients in their health journeys. That's another way that we'll build the healthcare of tomorrow, and that's the Flava of the week.
The flow, the flow, the flow.
All right, let's get into the flow. Welcome back, Zane.
Hey, Jared, how are you?
I'm doing great. Today, we're going to speak with Andy Grove from Pose Fitness, the founder there. And I wonder what you're interested in or hoping to hear from this episode.
A whole number of things. So let's start from the top. So Andy and I first met as part of the ILO, so the Institute for Innovation in Large Organizations. So shout out to Peter Teams and that crew over there that brought us together. For those that have been listening to us for a while, we take the perspective that the future of digital health in some way is going to be connected fitness. We've had Whoop on the show, we've had Ura on the show, all of which in some ways are integrating more like healthcare things into their wellness apps. And so really excited to have Andy here to talk about what they're doing at Pose Fitness, because I think, again, it's in that sort of category of the further upstream you go in healthcare and try to actually keep people well, you naturally cross into the health and fitness space. And so excited to have Andy here to talk about some of these things and see if some of the ideas and perspectives we've had here on the show are going to stand the test of time and see if they manifest here in the market. So that's my preamble.
All right, well, let's welcome him in. Let's find out. Andy, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited for the conversation. And I have a lot of thoughts about connected fitness, preventative wellness, and really how to empower people to take ownership of their own well-being through whatever tools are available to them.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we introduced you as the founder of Pose Fitness, but tell us a little bit more about yourself. How else do you introduce yourself?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So I come from the product design world. I'm a customer experience designer. I've worked in software for over a decade now, starting with custom software, consulting with tons of different types of companies. So learning about the flow from startups the whole way up to like Fortune 500 enterprise companies. I spent some time with really big firms like Wabtec Corporation as a rail company. That was early on in my career. And then I just left a US Bank. That's a financial institution. So I actually even tried to introduce some wellness-based financial tools there. You know, there's more or less success with certain categories. But I've also spent some time in aerospace. And then over the last 7 years, we've been doing R&D on Pose and then launched our MVP to market in April of last year and are starting to really build some traction, solid relationships with trainers, physical therapists, and then the general like fitness and wellness community, as well as some military and government contracts as well.
That's fantastic. How, obviously, most people that found something like Pose Fitness, and I'll ask you specifically what it is here in a second, but how did you get into this? How did you decide that, okay, hey, maybe the white collar job working in corporate America wasn't for you and you really wanted to get into creating the solution for fitness wonk, so to speak?
My degree is in industrial design, which is just all about building. It's people think graphic design, you're making brands and pictures and logos and stuff like that. This is more of the human-centered usability around any product, business, experience, building, software, anything. So I have this kind of broad range of high-level design principles that I work off of. And I actually wasn't the most athletic kid growing up. My parents forced me to do things. I did a couple of triathlons, not very willingly. I went to a basketball camp when I was younger. That's like a core memory of like hating it and not being an athlete. But in college, I found some guys who were actually on the rugby team and they taught me how to lift in the gym. I started realizing why it was important, started getting stronger, seeing results, feeling better, doing better at my classes. And then we started playing like racquetball 6 days a week and my cardio really improved. After college, a buddy of mine were doing an Army Ranger style fitness program. Probably shouldn't have been going that far out there, but they introduced a concept called German volume training, which is heavyweight, high reps. And we knew how to do a squat, but I'm like, hey, if I'm going to put heavy weight on this bar and get to the point of fatigue and potentially failure, I need to do this in a good way so that I'm not going to get hurt. And to me, injury is the opposite of progress, right? So how do we identify injury early and make sure that it doesn't happen and then put in a bunch of roadblocks so that we never get to injury so we're learning and progressing efficiently. So we're standing in the squat rack and thinking about what tools can we use? And we were both out of college, broke, can't hire a personal trainer. The apps on the market did not do any sort of motion analysis or form feedback for an exercise. And then really if you look on YouTube, how do I do a squat? There's 300,000 videos that you have to go through. And all of the videos give advice off of the specific person in that video, not for me. And if you know anything about femur length and physical proportions, you know that everybody's squat looks different. And the people who are saying ass to grass, right? It's not actually a good way to move for some people, especially if you have really long femurs. So we wanted to do some analysis around that. He was a mechanical engineer, and we kind of jokingly said, well, let's try and build it with my design degree and his mechanical engineering background. And we ended up building a prototype. We used a whole bunch of different technologies to try, like Xbox Kinect camera. Orbeck Astra was another 3D depth sensing camera. And then we had some relationships with the military in the early days, and they told us that they weren't going to buy big hardware, cumbersome systems. So we boiled it all down to the phone, and now it sits on the mobile device, so it can be in everybody's pocket, both trainers, athletes, gym goers, and everybody.
That's fantastic to hear. And call it your founding story speaks to me. I was like pre-diabetic as a kid, not very healthy. Then I discovered lifting as well and mountain biking, and I'm probably in the best shape of my life right now. So I appreciate that. But curious, just to put it simply then, so it sounds like Pose Fitness then is really focused on helping people have the right, is it posture or form when they're in the gym? Is that it? Is that the crux of the problem you're trying to solve?
The big picture vision of like what we're going to do over the next 5 to 10 years and what we're doing today. And the kind of differentiator that we have today is markerless motion capture. So you take the phone, you set it up on a tripod in the gym, you put it in front of your squat rack or your bench press or your push-ups or your sit-ups, and it actually watches you do that motion, identifies 18 key body points on your body, and then we have a proportionally agnostic rule set that'll score each individual rep. Now, what we can tell from that is where on your body does the form break down? If I'm doing a squat, is my left leg stronger than my right leg? Is my spine not stable, and am I shifting left to right? Where are these problems happening, and to what degree, so that I can actually zoom into the specifics of it and say, hey, this is a problem that we can solve today so that it doesn't lead to long-term imbalances or even injury. So it's about preventative maintenance. Weirdly enough, like when I was working at the rail company, preventative maintenance was something that we did on the trains, and vibration is something that breaks things down. So you kind of learned about this, like observing repeated patterns that are moving in the wrong direction, flagging it, and then creating a solution before there's a problem. And we applied that to fitness. So this is all about benchmarking, seeing where you are today, identifying issues, addressing those issues, and benchmarking to show improvement or moving in the wrong direction. But typically we can identify them early enough that we give you a program or some sort of strength building exercise to solve the problem and continue moving in the right direction or the wrong direction.
I like this. I think I need to download the app because I've noticed when I do a bench press, my right shoulder every now and then starts hurting. And so I'm sure there's something in your app that can help coach me differently.
Absolutely. And bench press is one of the ones that we're trying to do. It's tough because you have to like do it on an angle and there's occlusion. So there's all these camera-based technical limitations that we learn to overcome as we do all the R&D on this project. But yeah, I have a friend who's been working with us loosely for the last few years. And one of the things I didn't know about the bench press is you actually want your back to be completely contracted while you're doing it so that you have all this stability and your shoulder doesn't give out. And the second I started doing that, like my weight capabilities even went up. So really cool thing to learn. But aside from markerless motion capture, our goal for Pose is to sit in between inexperienced people who need good information to move forward and create a healthy lifestyle, and the professionals who can offer that information. And right now it's all around fitness programming, markerless motion capture, and assessments. But as we grow, we envision it to be an entire ecosystem of wellness resources, clinician relationships, trainer relationships, and the connective tissue that gets them clients and business and makes all of these resources very easily accessible for people. Because I think one of the challenges that the fitness industry experiences is that there's so much stuff to cut through to find what works for you. And there's a lot of snake oil salesmen that you don't want to spend time with. So like using technology for objective data that says, here's exactly where you are now. It's not that you can't improve. It's not that you're even bad now, but you're benchmarking and making data-driven specific decisions. And we're supporting things like supplementation and nutrition and other daily habits that go along with it that at the end of the day will keep you out of the hospital. You talked about preventative healthcare. You talked about like connective fitness being the very front end of the health and wellness pipeline. That's exactly what we believe. And the holistic approach to it and the ability to teach people how to not just execute instructions from a trainer or a nutrition coach, like, hey, go buy these foods and eat these foods, but helping them understand, here's how I can do it for me. Here's how I can create habits that I understand and can make decisions off of. That's like, there's a book called Teach Them to Fish, I think is what it is. And it's about like teaching people to take care of themselves instead of only taking care of them so that they have reliability on you. We want people to take ownership and build a health and wellness lifestyle for themselves and their families. And if we can help with that, great. But we don't want them to like only rely on us for that knowledge. Get the knowledge yourself and figure out how to apply it, and then build and design a lifestyle that works for you, because it's different for every user, right?
Yeah. Like what I'm hearing is like lifestyle modification, giving people agency in their own wellness and health. And then the other thing that comes to mind, curious how you think about it, Jared. On the podcast, we've interviewed a number of digital health companies that are working very closely with GLP-1s. And they don't always come out and say it. But what I've noticed is people lose a lot of fat when they're on these drugs, but they're not strong, right? So their bodies lose the body mass, the fat, but they still don't necessarily have a strong core, haven't really picked up any type of weight training. And at least we've heard from some medical professionals how important weight training along with the use of some of these drugs is going to be. And so I could see like a natural connection there, right? Where it's not just take the medical pharmaceutical intervention, but also think about strengthening your body, your core, your legs so that you can ambulate and not end up in a nursing home, right? But that's just something that comes to mind.
We definitely have had those conversations. One thing I wanted to ask was just how it works for like a new user, or if it's a membership, and kind of like what somebody can kind of expect. If you can just kind of walk us through, like somebody wants to check out Pose and then kind of start using it themselves.
It's pretty straightforward at this point. We are iOS only for the time being because the camera technology is actually different between iOS and Android. So we built our MVP on iOS. Eventually we'll invest in enabling Android as well. But you download from the App Store, you go on, I'll put my code out there. It's free month. So if you type in free month to the referral code section, you'll actually get to try it out for 30 days and work with the programs that are on the app. You go into the app and then there's a library of programs. So you can kind of pick between a few to get started with, start doing a 6-week, 4-week, 12-week strength building course. And then the AR, the motion capture, is integrated to each individual program where it needs to be. So you can engage in one of these long programs and start building habits around fitness. You can check off your boxes, track your sets and reps like you would in any other app. But we have some other things on there like the functional movement screen for physical therapy. So if you want to benchmark your range of motion and your flexibility and just see what those metrics are today, so that while you're doing one of these longer programs, you can see how that changes and how that improves. It's a really useful tool as well. So there's another tab in there that's called assessments, and you can actually go take an assessment. Now, this is our MVP, so it's an early stage content library. It'll get a little bit more organized and a little bit more targeted to specific users as we grow, even to the point where like, hey, military users will get military content. Physical therapy users will get physical therapy content. Even a trainer will be able to log on, build their own account, build their own programs, and then assign those programs to clients to use the Markerless motion capture. But at that point, like today, it's really just easy to get on and start using it and start doing a fitness program. And people, if they want a specific type of program, like feel free to send us an email or an outreach on our website and we'll get it built up for you and put it into the app. And we can go from there.
That's fantastic. What has the response been so far? How are people using it? Any interesting insights about how consumers actually have been able to leverage your tool?
We're in a phase where kind of clinicians and experts are locking onto it the most right now because they understand the need for the data. And it is pretty high tech. So somebody who maybe doesn't have a lot of fitness knowledge right now, it might seem like a lot. It is still very helpful to that kind of person. So I always recommend people like kind of have an open mind when they go into it and they just start experimenting and see how they can benefit from it. But we're seeing a lot of benefit with trainers, physical therapists, military trainers, where there needs to be some sort of strategic measurement for the business case. How do I prove to my clients that I'm actually getting success for them? How can I prove to them that their habits are becoming more and more effective and that they're being more and more consistent in the gym? So all of this, the programs that we have track compliance and adherence, which are two different metrics. One is, are you doing it day to day? And the other is, if I assign you 10 reps, did you do 10 reps, 12 reps, or 8 reps, right? And so that we can tell where in this program are you in relation to what the program expects, right? Are you doing better? Are you doing worse? Is it too hard? Is it too easy? And as we start collecting that early data set, we can actually integrate that with AI tools on the back end and have the AI custom adjust your programs as you do them, which kind of happens in the background like magically. So it's not something that people would actually see, but it would make the program more and more usable to that client, and then actually kind of try and lead them and guide them into a better place as they continue to execute the assigned program.
Zane brought up this whole concept of even other conversations we've had about GLP-1 solutions, so medically assisted weight loss. And then we can also talk about something that Zane brought up in one of our predictions episodes at the end of last year, which was the whole thought of a constellation of care. So meaning you as an individual having more options than ever before, and they're growing by the day, but like tools like Pose, like this is easily something that I can bring into my own constellation of care, if you will. There are some parts of that relate to a provider, a health system, a hospital, and there's other things that I'm kind of curating on my own. But now all those things can talk to each other or be integrated, like they can be involved in other ways. And that wasn't possible not too long ago in the past. So to see the proliferation of new connected solutions that can provide some data to someone else in my ecosystem, my constellation of care, that's one thing I think is really exciting about this. And it does speak to the thought of fewer reasons to not go out there and try it. If you are just one who has been confused, or to your point of like, there's a lot of content, there's a lot of info in the fitness space, you have to cut through a lot of stuff to know what's actually right for you. And there's one of those tools in that arsenal, if you will, is kind of how I see it. Is that how you would see this? Or I guess what other parts of someone's constellation of care might make sense to kind of go along with this?
So I think from the business side of it, right, like trainers often use something like Trainerize, Train Heroic, Team Builder, and that's where they're like building and assigning their programs. That's functionality that we'll have at some point. So it can fit in from a, like, how do you organize somebody's whole fitness plan perspective? And that's something that can be reported into the physical therapy world. It can be integrated with nutrition and health coaching, because it's really key to understand somebody's activity level whenever you're building a nutrition plan. And then even like, if somebody's having an issue and they actually have to go to the hospital, we can see what activities they were or weren't doing beforehand and recommend kind of a prescriptive approach for them. Because at the end of the day, sometimes people just need to get active. I think low metabolism is something that leads to so many problems for people. We've lived in a very comfort-focused world for a really long time. And I feel like we're coming out of that as well, where effort's kind of a good thing and making accomplishments is very gratifying and helps people feel like they can do something with their life. I think we're actually exiting the comfort-focused phase of humanity, which I appreciate, but giving people approachable things that they can take action on is part of that. And then being able to communicate that data back and forth to whatever other systems that they're working with. Behind the scenes, we're working on API and like SDK connectivity so that if they had like EHR or whatever, we can report out. One of the things that the military is requiring of us is that we can report individual candidate data at a command level. And so once we have that functionality in the Air Force, we'll be able to actually take that and integrate it on the commercial side as well. So you can say, hey, here's the fitness assessments that they've been doing. Here's the results that they got. And here, healthcare provider, is what your patient is doing from a health and wellness perspective. And maybe even here are some recommendations on what you should assign them. Because until recently, like, doctors and physicians are not required to even understand fitness and nutrition. And at the end of the day, that's probably the starting point and the core of somebody's overall health journey. Like if you're stagnant and not moving and not growing and eating healthy, that is what leads to all these things that end us up in the hospital.
My brother-in-law, sister, and proud to say my nephew are now all City of Toronto firefighters. And so I'm thinking about two like applications at a population level with like fire departments, police departments, other branches of the military where like fitness, I would imagine there's a standard of some sort. And for forces, agencies to look at a population level, like how are their people performing? And do we have action plans for those that might fall outside of some given benchmark around strength or fitness? I think that could be a huge opportunity.
We've done a lot of work with veterans, first responders, military, law enforcement, firefighters even. And we're in the very early stages of like, how do we take this body tracking technology that we have now and create a more seamless rollout of some of these more skill specific executions? Wrestling is another example. One of our investors is a wrestling coach around the country. And he's like, how do you assess posture whenever you're competing? We have a lot of combat sports connections, so it applies there. And that applies very well to law enforcement and military. But as we expand that body tracking capability, we want to think in less rep by rep and more movement sessions. So are you doing running? Are you on the treadmill? Are you wrestling? Are you throwing sandbags over your shoulder? And mountain biking would be great. The challenge with those kind of things is like, are you stationary or not, right? With mountain biking, you're ripping through the woods, right? What do we just put a drone up behind you that follows you down? And I mean, we could. There's a lot of cool, like very out there innovation in this space that we're excited to work on as well.
This is fascinating. I mean, I can just see the bridge coming together on the more health side, more clinical side. If we can get the payment models right, the business model right, I think the future is bright. To Jared's point, I think all the tech infrastructure exists today for people to live, like not just live, but thrive, if they choose to have agency to pick up these tools and apply them to their life.
Momentum, like that's the word. I've never seen this much momentum in this space. So everything you've shared with us, Andy, was right along those lines of what we're seeing and hearing. And it's super exciting to hear how you're thinking of it, of what you're keeping an eye on and how it's connecting and where you're going from here. So I wanted to give you a final word here as we start to wrap up. Anything else we haven't mentioned, whether it's about Pose or like anything else you're spending time trying to keep up with, any trends or just something that's in the middle of your radar screen, but any other message you'd like to share that we haven't touched on yet?
I will say I'm very excited to observe like the direction of the country and where we're going from a health and wellness and nutrition perspective. There's been a lot of things that have been uncovered that maybe weren't happening the right way in the past. And now people are really taking ownership and changing the way that we do things, even down to like how our food is made and how fitness and wellness is integrated with schooling. There was a big phase where PE was taken out of schools, and I think now it's coming back in. So that's very good. But these foundational elements of lifestyle and what's required to truly live a successful lifestyle and an enjoyable lifestyle, they don't really exist without good wellness habits. I am encouraged to see the way that the country's moving, and I hope that's a good example that we can set to the rest of the world. And I have a lot of hope about some of the movement that's happening. And companies like Whoop and Oura Ring are also doing very good work and helping people pinpoint data and make really good decisions similar to how we're doing it. But yeah, just excited to really see what's next. If anybody's interested in working with us at Pose, it's a simple outreach on our website, and I'll be happy to connect with them and talk about how we can help, how we can integrate to their businesses. And the other thing that I will say is we see this as like a big community that we're going to be building. And it's not just about Pose. So any business that wants to integrate us into theirs can leverage our champion program. It's an ambassador style model, and we give a cut of all the revenue to the business when they integrate this. So it's actually an additional revenue stream that they can work into their company. They can help provide additional benefits to their members and scale with Pose as well.
Love it.
Fantastic. Andy, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for everything you're doing to make healthcare consumer first and to give us new options to use our agency to live healthier. We really appreciate it and look forward to keeping an eye on everything you got going on.
Thanks, guys. Great chatting.